dei registi più importanti e innovativi del nuovo cinema della paura e non solo. Presente qui al festival nella sezione Mondo Genere con il film Stone Art Asylum. Ho il piacere di presentarvi Brad Anderson. Vorrei che ci raccontassi un po' la genesi del film, come mai la scelta di questa storia di Edgar Allan Poe e come si è trasformato nel momento in cui è stata scritta la sceneggiatura.
I didn't write the script for the movie. This was written by Joe Gangemi, and the script was written maybe like 15, 20 years ago. It was his first script, and it had gotten a lot of attention at the time, and there were numerous directors and actors that had wanted to be involved with it, but for a variety of reasons, it just never got off the ground. And then I read the script, 2-3 years ago, and had always wanted to do something something that had to do with Edgar Allan Poe. I've always been a fan of Edgar Allan Poe's work and the tone and the morbid kind of romantic, gothic quality of his stories, and Joe's script had all of that. It was based on a very short, obscure Poe story called The System of Dr. Tar and Mr. Feather, and Joe adapted the short story into a feature script. The short was, the story was really, the only element that really came into the final movie was the idea of a young doctor who goes to an asylum to study under the tutelage of this famous superintendent, only to learn that the superintendent is in fact a patient, and all the patients have taken over the asylum. So that aspect of it was what Poe had written, and Joe, took that sort of kernel of an idea and expanded it. The original title of the movie was Eliza Graves. It was the Kate Beckinsale character. And it was really much, he made it into a love story. Essentially it's a love story in the context of a sort of gothic horror movie, if you will. And that's what drew me to it. I was interested in both the horrific aspect of it, but also the romance of it, the dark romance of it. And this idea of the very blurry line between sanity and insanity, and it has been, I guess you could say, it's been a theme that's run through a few of my films, like The Machinist and Session 9, and movies that deal with characters that are walking that razor's edge between, being crazy and being sane. I find those kind of stories and those kinds of characters very interesting. Yeah, my first movies were romantic comedies, I started and continue to be, I think, an independent filmmaker. My movies are, independently financed. I haven't made a studio movie yet. My first films, the first couple of movies I made, were financed with credit cards and loans from friends and family. Truly independent, guerrilla-style filmmaking, we called it back in the 90s, when Sundance Film Festival, for instance, was very much embracing and supporting independent film. So my first movie back in 1996, I made it for, $20,000 on a credit card, and it just, my friends and family were in it, and I shot it on 16mm film, and I incorporated many of my own home movies in it. It was a very handmade labor of love, So, and I was also, the other thing I was really interested in when I was doing Session 9 was using sound design to create a sense of unease in the audience, and really finding ways to just have silence or just small sound design elements create a sense of tension or create a sense of dread in the film.
Poi a un certo punto nella tua carriera succede qualcosa di strano, cioè da regista indipendente americano vieni chiamato a fare un grosso progetto europeo prodotto da Julio Fernandez della Filmax, con Christian Bale protagonista, che fa un lavoro pazzesco sul suo fisico, che è The Machinist. Come è stato ricreare l'America a Barcellona e come sei entrato all'interno di questo progetto Filmax, che era, voglio dire, un progetto abbastanza importante per l'Europa all'epoca?
Yeah, again, that was a script for The Machinist written by Scott Kosar, who it was his first script, oddly enough, just like Stonehurst Asylum was Joe's first script. That I read the script and it was like, this is a really weird world that he's created and a really odd, like not particularly likable character, but who's on this really strange journey. And it sort of had a little bit of an Edgar Allan Poe vibe to it, frankly. So it was just like, I really loved the script. And then Christian Bale, this was before Batman, of course, we sent it to him and he read it and totally loved it as well. I mean, it was not a big budget film, at least by American standards. So, you know, he was doing it because of his passion for the script and for my vision behind it, I think. And so in the script, it's written that his character, Trevor, is a human. He's described as a human skeleton, you know. And Christian took that literally, I think, when he showed up on set in Barcelona, you know, looking like, I mean, I hate to say this, but he looked like a guy who had been, you know, a desert island survivor or something, completely emaciated. And, you know, part of me was like horrified that he was going to take that made that choice, but it was the correct choice for the character because he was a man in our story who's being consumed by his own guilty conscience. So it was sort of a cool idea. And they were each given, along with myself, complete creative control over the episode. I wrote, mine was called Sounds Like, and it was about a guy who was being tormented by his overly superior sense of hearing. And he starts to believe he can hear the sound of his dead child coming back from the grave.
E con la Filmax sei tornato invece di nuovo a girare un film che non è più assolutamente un horror, ma è più un thriller classico in un certo senso, con diversi twist alla fine, che è Trans-Siberian, anche qui con un cast molto interessante. È la prima volta che lavori con Ben Kingsley, che fa secondo me una parte strepitosa, e raccontaci un po' di Trans-Siberian.
Well, Trans-Siberian, I wrote that film along with a partner. And it was based on my own experiences when I was young, after college, traveling through Asia and taking the Trans-Siberian train from Beijing across Siberia to Moscow and traveling through Russia. I'd studied Russian language in college, and it was always fascinating to me. And I was very much into like Dostoevsky and Tarkovsky's films, you know what I mean? I was really into Russian stuff. So